everyone, welcome back to But Why Though? And today we're going to talk about our preview of Path of Exile 2, specifically the couch co-op and when we got access to playing The Witch. I'm Kate and I'm here with Matt.
Hello.
And ahead of Summer Game Fest, we got the chance to attend the Path of Exile 2 console playtest event where they pretty much set it up to play with your friend. It was probably the best preview event I've been to because it was literally just built for couch co-op. Matt, what were some of your expectations going into the console playtest?
I didn't really know because I knew we were probably going to play on a console, which for the most part hasn't been done with PoE clearly. But outside of that, I wasn't sure how we were going to play, whether we were just going to be playing, normally. 'Cause we had checked the game out at PAX West. Oh, excuse me, PAX East. Yes, that is correct. PAX East earlier this year, but it was a very limited demo. And it was kind of more of a, kind of almost a hands off more than a hands on. And they really kind of just had 1v1. We kind of just did a single player. We defeated a boss and whatnot. So I wasn't really sure what we were all going to get to see coming into here. But learning that it was just we're going to show you, couch co-op, and then obviously some of the other stuff, like I said, the witch and everything. That was very exciting.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I was really interested to see how everything gets ported because I know, like, whenever you're dealing, not ported because it was developed for this, but you're
Right.
taking an existing franchise and moving it to something new with its second iteration. And sometimes you lose the depth that you often get with the ability of keyboard and mouse. So I was really interested into seeing that. But more importantly, I wanted to know if I was going to get annoyed with the couch co-op. Because for those listening, Matt and I may be married, but we play very few couch co-op games, often because we like to do our own things in the shared world. So I think my expectations were high because what we had seen at PAX East were really good. But I think ultimately, I don't know. I didn't really know what I was expecting. I was expecting to not like the witch. Your girl doesn't play summoners. Um, yeah, I was expecting to not really like The Witch, and I was pleasantly surprised with how much I did. Matt, what were some of the things that really stuck out to you with this playtest?
Oh, right off the bat, I guess.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Okay, obviously I think the just putting on a console, I enjoy playing with the controller, to be honest. I know we gone from like clicky 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 to the WSA or
ASD.
ASD, can't talk there. To now we're going full-fledged controller, and I was like, you know what? I actually really enjoyed the controller experience. I thought it went well. One of the main things, I know we had the witch and they showed off some more of the monk and everything else, but I was like, I'm gonna play a ranger. This is what I want because I want to see how the range class works and whatnot. Because I know a lot of times when it comes to range classes with things, sometimes it can be messy. And I really enjoyed what I got from just using controller. I think the interface overall, how they did with particularly in couch co-op of just moving, you know, kind of it's on the same screen, but you don't have to, just because I go into the menu, you are not stopped at any point outside of very
Yeah.
limited like story iteration parts. I thought was very neat, and everything else. So being able to like, hey, I'm gonna adjust my character while you're moving, and doing things was nice.
Yeah, and I think that that's really what stuck out too, is just like I think what if anybody here listening, we did a couple of interviews with Octavian at PAX East where he talked about player agency kind of being at the core of what PoE2 and what Path of Exile in general has been. And I think they really brought that idea of player agency into the couch co-op screens because each of the screens works independent of the other for the most part. So I can pull up my menu. Matt would have his section of the screen. Matt would pull up his menu. I'd have my section of the screen. We could both be in it at the same time. There really weren't that many how do you say it, like barriers while playing together that I think is often the reason I get frustrated with couch co-op. Obviously you still are playing on the same screen, so don't be in your menu forever while somebody wants to progress the party. But if you're in like one central location, your party member can just walk through and go pick up things kill a couple of mobs while they're on their way and you don't have to worry about it as much, as which is very different than if the whole screen had frozen. And I think that that is something that shows a lot of understanding, I think, of how people play. And I think that that's something that I think has been really interesting. Seeing it at PAX East first, getting the WASD demo, especially with a class like the Ranger, where you see the importance of the additive animations that really makes that fluid movement and makes it a benefit to play with WASD instead of point and click. And then having that again on console, you have really thoughtful design. I'd say you have thoughtful UI design and you have thoughtful controller mapping, which I think is something that I don't know, like it's not easy. It's not easy to take keyboard and mouse to a controller and to do it in a way that doesn't feel like you're losing anything.
Yeah,
Um,
and obviously they gave you, I mean, they're giving us full customization of the mapping we
yes.
want, which is nice. Somehow we went backwards the last like 5+ years, where all of a sudden we went from like mapping any key to now we can't map anything, and finally we're bringing it back. Don't know what happened, but here we are again of just being able to select the skills you'd like. I think being able to flip the tabs and having,
Yeah.
multiple sections of skills being available was nice and just
Hmm.
seemed fluid. No, I do think overall, and obviously, I think this kicked off, Summer Game Fest and everything with controller. But I'm getting why I played on controller for so many years. With some of now that people, we're seeing teams and development teams and publishers and everything start to go back to focus on controller. Of like, no, there are games that can be played on controller
Yeah.
that have just been locked to a keyboard and mouse. And not to say anything against keyboard and mouse, there are definitely games that it is by far superior, and sometimes, but we do seem to lose some of the depth a lot of times when you go to controller. Like I'm sorry, I'm still not playing my city builders on a controller, but seeing some of the these other games, these ARPGs and some of the even MMO
Yeah.
stuff, like what the controls that we're getting and the mapping and the abilities of way they are done, and even just the UI in general being built for a console, a TV,
Yeah.
and everything. It's just been actually very nice to see and kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like I play this on controller, play this on a console, and I don't feel like I'm losing any of
Yeah.
the experience.
It's thoughtful system design, right? Because like PoE is kind of known for having its systems and having them be
Yes,
very in
yes.
depth. Um, to the point that it is a meme, but like in the best, like most complimentary of ways. And I think that there is a care that they're taking in maintaining the experience across all of the ways it chooses to build out the game, that it is just like it is feeding into like the reason that their skill trees are so expansive is because they believe you should be able to play the class the way you want to play the class. The reason their socket design is so expansive is because they believe that you should be able to play the class the way you want to play the class. And so seeing them actually putting the thought and time into developing things so uniquely and distinctly for each of the methods of playing the game, it is just kind of their ethos is still like that is still the core tenet. The player plays how they want to play. It just now means WASD, point and click, controller. It has
In
support
front
for
of a
all.
TV
In
or
front
at
of
a
a
desk.
TV, yes, or at a desk. Couch co-op or, online. And I think that like that's just really cool. And I will say, like, I was not a PoE girly when we started this year, and I think that I have started to transform into one, if you want me to be honest. And I think it is because speaking with Octavian, speaking with with the developers, and seeing the amount of care that they're putting into understanding not just how they want the community to play, but how they see the community play. I think that that is something that has to be applauded. Um,
Yeah, don't disagree. I mean, it's been one of those. I love my PC, but there are times where I'm like, I don't want to sit in a chair. I don't want to sit at a desk. I want to be able to just kind of lay down on my couch and play on a console. And that's been one thing that people always seem to leave out with the whole PC versus console. And you say, oh, you do it on your PC. Yeah, man, that's a lot of work. And I end up having some weird table desk thingy. I have no idea. You cannot lay down comfortably, in my opinion, well enough to and still be effective and play on a keyboard and mouse, especially the mouse.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so
No, and I think like kind of moving like some of the other things that we saw at the event, like during the console playtest, which is like really smart. They weren't just testing out like the console version. We played the PS5 version, by the way. Although at Summer Game Fest Playdays, we did get to play the Xbox version, ran just as smooth, looked just as good. The controller was better, but that's here nor there. Um, but we also got to not only test out the console version, we also got to play with Monk and Witch. And Witch was the new unannounced class. Monk had been announced, but really, I believe, was not in the beta, if I remember correctly,
Believe
available
so.
to play. Monk is melee DPS class, combo focus, really cool. Electric powers. I know that that's not correct, but as I said, I did not start as a PoE person at the start of this year, and I'm learning as I go. You can shock the hell out of people by stringing together combos, summoning a bell, beating it to hell, and then taking that out on your enemy. It's really cool. And I'm usually a melee DPS person in games like this, but I actually found myself falling in love with the witch and her witchy powers because they took care of the thing that I don't like about summoners. I don't like tracking my minions. I don't like finding when I need to call one out. And the witch system here is really cool and it's really accessible because you have your permanent minions, which um come up and stay when they're killed. There's a kind of a timer on that, and you unlock socket skills that summon different types like snipers, and everything like that. And that takes that entire system off of my plate, which now makes the witch and a summoner class way more approachable. And then, so that you don't lose the depth of having other minions, there are specific socket skills that will call forth minions as you run through things that only when activated by those skills. And I think that that's kind of like a really nice balance that makes it an approachable class. And now I'm just gonna say before I toss it to you, Matt, that the best feeling I've ever had in an ARPG, and I would say probably any other game other than being a Hobbit earlier this week, was using Contagion, which is one of the new skills where you infect a thing. That thing then infects other things, and sooner or later you are a plague. And that was fun. That was like my minions just running around infecting everything, like just a wave of infected scorpion skeletons. Unmatched. I think that that was probably the most powerful I felt in a game this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think having being able to adjust, I think with what it's a currency of like spirit based on abilities and
Yes.
everything, and you kind of just having them being able to resummon when they die is nice. I think also even the thought process of instead of that they die, you instantly spawn one, kind of more waiting on like of a timer of sort and kind of having them come spawn, like if you have multiple ones spawning
Yeah.
together as a group. And so you're not just constantly trying to get your permanent minions back because they spawn die spawn die spawn
Yeah.
die, so it's more of like they die, okay, let's wait, let's regroup, wait for a fresh clearing, or if you have multiple ones, all right, let's get like 2 or 3 of these, they all spawn together.
Yeah.
I can see some issues where people are like, I just really need that, I have 2 out, I need that third one, which I'm assuming manually you can do.
Yeah.
But having the auto where you're playing, you're down to one, it has like, 25% health. There's no reason to try to start spawning one after another. Just let that last one die, wipe, get set up, reset, we spawn all 3, you're good. And then, like you said, with all the temp minions in between and being able to summon based on skills and usage of that way versus having to go through in a minion or basically stop, cast a very specific skill to basically a summon skill. You're now doing an action skill, doing some sort of damage that causes a summon versus,
Yeah.
you just stop summon. I think it was very well intricate.
Yeah.
Obviously, for being a range class, very squishy.
Very, very squishy.
Didn't
I
didn't
die a
like it as
lot.
much as you did personally, just but that's also not my play style for what I liked. But I do see why it's enticing and kind of the fundamentals of why it would be a very good class for people to check out and see.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, I think when we started like on the preview day at the play test, I was kind of like, man, we have to play one of the new classes.
Yes.
I guess I'll be the witch. She at least looks cool. Not that the monk doesn't look cool, but I was like, oh girl, I'll be her. Um, and then I think the first time I got to cast Contagion was when I was like, ooh, this is fun. Which I do think like to call out as well, like as much as I say the systems have been simplified in terms of the permanent minions, I think a lot about what Octavian said in our interview with him from PAX East, which you can go read at butwhytho.net. It's not about dumbing down things, it's about making things approachable. And I think what they did with the witch class as a summoner is it is approachable because if I want to summon something else, I can do that. The other thing that I made the mistake of on my first play with Rich, which was that I had unlocked skills that I could not use because I didn't have enough spirit. So I didn't do the step before the automatic summoning of actually setting it up so that my spirit was being properly utilized across my permanent minions, which is something that you still have to do. So you're not losing the depth of balancing your spirit with summoning. You're just kind of having an action kind of I don't want to say simplified, but streamlined. You still have to put in the work to make sure you have enough to summon them, because I did not. There's like a minion that like when it's close to death it runs and then explodes. I never got to use it because I didn't balance my my spirit. So yeah. Do you have anything else other than
Uh, on
cool?
that, no. I mean, on the Witch, no. I think you got to play the most with it. I thought you enjoyed for what we saw and everything else.
Yeah. Anything else you have on your end that you really appreciated?
I mean, obviously, like I said, I think there's still some issues with the couch co-op, to be honest. I think it was very good. I think it's going to work. I still think TV size will end up playing a
Yeah.
in-depth look that people don't want to talk about. We do play. I mean, not that everybody doesn't have a hard TV at this point, but not everybody does. But overall, I think between the UI systems, navigating, the menus, and I think moving in and out, thought, and honestly, just being on a controller and doing that, I thought it just went all very well.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, I've known a PoE for a long time. It's been 10 years. Haven't played in years, obviously. But I'm with you of like I've been very impressed with because obviously we've now checked the stuff out, multiple times over the last
Yeah.
few months, and I've been impressed with what we've been seeing each time. And I feel like we're getting more and more. Obviously, they get closer to release, and I've
Yeah.
enjoyed it more and more each time. And so I'm really excited to see like what we're getting more announcements for, and then also how PoE to release and everything shapes out. I'm sure they still got a ways to go, but from what I've seen so far, especially it's kind of like you talked about a person being approachable, because one of the reasons why I didn't play as much because at some point it is very dedicated of like I do not have the time.
Yeah.
But seeing what they've done, not that it's still going to have that, and that's what people love, and that's why it's going to be here. But it does seem to be a little more approachable and like, oh, I can understand these systems without having to go watch a 2 hour video. And I'm sure I'm sure there's a point in the game where you will need that 2 hour video.
Yeah.
But starting out and getting involved into the game doesn't seem to be like that as much.
Yeah. And I think that like I agree with you on all of that. I definitely think TV size is going to be the issue for folks. We have a 65 inch, so I like it wouldn't be that big of an issue for us. But that's something that people don't want to talk about, and that dictates pretty much everything. But I do think I agree with you that like for me, and I kind of had a different thing, is it wasn't time dedication for me. It was that like I felt too stupid to play PoE after looking at all of like the sockets and skill charts. I was just like, I'm out of my depth. And I think about that sometimes with like other strategy games, but I think or not, this isn't a strat, but with strategy games, that's a genre I also sometimes find myself being like, oh, I'm too dumb for this. And I think that what PoE has done has really thought about like, just play us, which is such a weird thing to say, but it's just, and I even think that like getting the devs that we've talked to and the devs that we've played is like, oh, just play. Like don't think about it. Just go play. And I think that that was really good. And it was good because they had the systems to back up the approachability. And I think that like for the first time, I actually think that like, oh, this is something that I can do. Like I can see myself losing 8 hours of my day just playing PoE 2. So, yeah, I mean, good job, grinding gears. Like yeah, I don't really have anything to say. I mean, I think there's some finessing with some of the menu options, or there's a slight tether effect between you and the other person. Where if you move and you try to go off screen, it'll pull them a little bit. I think that was the only thing I noticed that was a little like just needs a little bit more refinement. Um, I don't know
Yeah.
if you agree, but
I
that
no,
was it.
I thought it was fine. I think obviously you're gonna hit items and that was about it.
Yeah.
But no, I still think you could move open area. But yeah, if you run into a wall, you run into a wall, you're stuck. But I think there were ways around it. But in
Yeah.
the day, the more you people, I mean, I don't think the pause menus, while they are do that, I don't think they're designed for somebody to be standing there for 10 minutes
Oh,
when
yeah.
I play. They're designed to where, hey, I need to check something while you finish this. You're able to do that without both of us
Ideally, you should
stopping.
go back to the town when somebody needs to use the
Yeah, well,
restroom.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so I think for that instance, it was fine with me because I think
Yeah.
for the most part, it's like, hey, I got this. I check it out while you're doing it. Cool, I'm done. We're moving.
Yeah.
Not, hey, let's sit here and wait for
It's
5 minutes.
really easy to slot out gear and up use your skills the fat like really quickly too in the middle of a mob, which was really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, that's all I had. PoA 2 is shaping up to be dope, and I just may be a PoE girly soon. I don't know. I'm on that trajectory. I feel like if I play at PAX West, I'm gonna get fully suckered in and I'm never gonna escape.
There you go.
So, Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me obviously at butwhythough.net. You can check out my writing and other stuff that we do there. And then obviously this YouTube/podcast thing here. And then I guess you can find me on the interwebs at that M18 DATTM18.
And you can find me at Oh My Myth Randier on everything. You can find all of our work up on butwhythough.net. We will be having a lot of Summer Game Fest coverage, either out right now or coming out, depending on when you watch this video. And yeah, we're excited. We got the games and we're going to talk about them.
Yep.